Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All Gurus, Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. I don't know, Swapna Mataji, are you on the call? I don't see Swapna Mataji on the call. Oh yeah, you're here, Mataji. When are you ready, you can start, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Just a second, Prabhuji, I'm opening.
Yeah, sure. I'll also share my screen, so you can see it.
Chapter 1.
Yeah, Canto 1, Chapter 18. I will also share my screen if you need to see the here also.
Okay.
Let me see. That is verse number 17, 118, 17.
Chapter 17.
Yeah, I shared my screen also, but what is convenient for you, you can follow.
Yeah. I'll start now, Prabhuji.
Sure, yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudevaya. Nishtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttamashloke bhaktir bhavati nishtike. Today we'll be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 18. Maharaj Parikshit, cursed by a Brahmana boy, from text 17. Thus, please narrate to us the narrations of the unlimited, for they are purifying and supreme. They were spoken to Maharaj Parikshit, and they are very dear to pure devotees, being full of Bhakti Yoga. Text 18. Sri Sutta Goswami said, O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who are advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can without delay cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower births. Text 19. And what to speak of those who are under the direction of the great devotees, chanting the holy name of the unlimited, who has unlimited potency. The personality of Godhead, unlimited in potency and transcendental by attributes, is called Ananta, unlimited. Text 20. It is now ascertained that He, the personality of Godhead, is unlimited and there is none equal to Him. Consequently, no one can speak of Him adequately. Great demigods cannot obtain the favor of the goddess of fortune even by prayers, but this very goddess renders service unto the Lord, although he is unwilling to have such service. Text 21. Who can be worthy of the name of the Supreme Lord but the personality of Godhead? Sri Krishna. Brahmaji collected the water emanating from the nails of his feet in order to award it to Lord Shiva as a worshipful welcome. This very water, the Ganges, is purifying the whole universe, including Lord Shiva. Text 22. Self-controlled persons who are attached to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna can all of a sudden give up the world of material attachment, including the gross body and subtle mind, and go away to attain the highest perfection of the renounced order of life, by which non-violence and renunciation are consequential. Text 23. O Rishis, who are as powerfully pure as the sun, I shall try to describe to you the transcendental pastimes of Vishnu as far as my knowledge is concerned. As the birds fly in the sky as far as their capacity allows, so do the learned devotees describe the Lord as far as their realization allows. Texts 24 and 25. Once upon a time, Maharaj Parikshit while engaged in hunting in the forest with bow and arrows, became extremely fatigued, hungry, and thirsty while following the stags. While searching for a reservoir of water, he entered the hermitage of the well known Shamika Rishi and saw the sage sitting silently with closed eyes. Text 26. The Muni's sense organs, breath, mind, and intelligence were all restrained from material activities, and he was situated in a trance apart from the three wakefulness, dream, and unconsciousness, having achieved a transcendental position qualitatively equal with the Supreme Absolute. Text 27. The sage in meditation was covered by the skin of a stag, and long, compressed hair was scattered all over him. The king, whose palate was dry from thirst, asked him for water. Text 28. The king, not received by any formal welcome, but by means of being offered a seat, place, water, and sweet addresses, considered himself neglected, and so thinking, he became angry. Text 29. O Brahmanas, the circumstances having distressed him with extreme hunger and thirst, the king directed toward the sage with anger and envy, which he had never before directed toward a Brahmana. Text 30. While leaving, the king, being so insulted, picked up a lifeless snake with his bow and angrily placed it on the shoulder of the sage. Then he returned to his palace. Text 31. Upon returning, he began to contemplate and argue within himself whether the sage had actually been in meditation with senses concentrated and eyes closed, or whether he had just been feigning trance just to avoid receiving a lower kshatriya. Text 32. The sage had a son who was very powerful, being a Brahmana's son. While he was playing with inexperienced boys, he heard of his father's distress, which was occasioned by the king. Then and there, the boy spoke as follows. Text 33. The Brahmana's son, Shringi, said, Oh, just look at the sins of the rulers who, like crows and watchdogs at the door, perpetrate sins against their masters, contrary to the principles governing servants. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji. Yeah, Naval Kishori Mataji, when are you ready? You can start, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much, Mataji, for reading. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunnilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna devotees. So we are reading chapter 18, Maharaj Parikshit cursed by a Brahmana boy. In earlier verses, yesterday we heard that Sut Goswami is glorifying Maharaj Parikshit to the sages of Naimisharanya, and that how Maharaj Parikshit was saved in the womb of his mother, and how he was surrendered to the Krishna, and how he was always in all the circumstances. Maharaj Parikshit was Narayan Parayan. And then he gave up all the material association and he surrendered to the Shukdev Goswami as a disciple. And then how Maharaj Parikshit dealt with the Kali. And we also heard that how the sages of Naimisharanya were very eager to hear the Krishna Katha. And today we are reading from text 17. Text 17. In this, sages of Naimisharanya are expressing their eagerness to hear Krishna Katha from Sut Goswami by saying that please narrate to us the narration of the unlimited, because they are Param. Param means supreme, because they are supreme, Punyam, Punya means purifying, because they are purifying. And third is Atyadbhut. Atyadbhut is wonderful. And Yoga Nishtham, full of Bhakti Yoga. And then is Parikshitam, spoken to Maharaj Parikshit. And then Bhagavata Bhiramam, dear to devotees. So in this text 17, like Srila Prabhupada is saying, like all the sages of Naimisharanya, they are very eager to hear the narrations of the unlimited, and who is very dear to the pure devotees, and that is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is mainly full of narrations of the activities of the Supreme Unlimited, and therefore it is the science of Bhakti Yoga, or the devotional service of the Lord. And thus it is para or supreme, because although it is enriched with all knowledge and religion, it is specifically enriched with the devotional service of the Lord. And then text 18. Text in this Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada mentions the importance of like one's birth, and emphasizes the importance of attaining purity. Like Srila Prabhupada is saying, like it doesn't matter like in which like if you are in lower birth or higher, it doesn't matter. And Sut Goswami, and Srila Prabhupada is mentioning, Sut Goswami learned the science of Krishna from great rishis and authorities like Shukdev and Vyasadev, and he was so qualified that even the sages of Naimisharanya eagerly wanted to hear from him the science of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he had the double association of great souls by hearing and preaching. Transcendental science, or the science of Krishna, has to be learned from the authorities, and when one preaches the science, he becomes still more qualified. So Sut Goswami, he had both the advantages, and then he was completely freed from all the disqualifications of low birth and mental agonies. In this text, Sut Goswami was thinking, like he has taken birth in the, like he has mixed caste, born in the family of mixed caste. So, but Srila Prabhupada glorifies Sut Goswami. He learned the science of Krishna from the great rishis and authorities like Shukdev and Vyasadev, and so he was qualified that even the sages of Naimisharanya also wanted to hear from him. And then Srila Prabhupada glorifies the potency of pure devotees association by saying, like the Ganges water is accepted as pure, and one can become purified by taking a bath in the water of the Ganges. But as far as the great devotees of the Lord are concerned, they can purify a degraded soul even by being seen by the lowborn, and what to speak of association. So we can see how like one can be raised from a low position to exalted position by associating with great souls, by serving them, and by following their instructions, and by following the instructions of great devotees, and by chanting the holy names of the Lord, one can one can be uplifted, and by preaching also. So by this way, one can attain the purity. And then text 19. Text 19 in this Srila Prabhupada is mentioning the purifying potency of chanting Krishna's holy names, especially in the direction of pure devotee, that is spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada is saying, like even a Shudra can be elevated to the platform of Vaishnava, which is beyond Dvij Bandhu and Brahmana, only by chanting the holy names of the Lord under the direction of spiritual master. The holy name of the Lord is as powerful as the Lord. And the offenseless chanting of the holy name of the Lord is transcendental. And such chanting at once purify one from the effects of all kinds of previous sins. So this point is very important, that offenseless chanting is and offenseless chanting can purify one from the effects of all kinds of previous sins. This offenseless chanting indicates that one has fully understood the transcendental nature of the holy name and has thus surrendered unto the Lord. Transcendently, the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical, being absolute. The holy name of the Lord is as powerful as the Lord. The Lord is the all-powerful personality of Godhead, and he has innumerable names, which are all non-different from him and are equally powerful also. So the first phrase in this text, it's mentioned Kuta Puna. Srila Jiv Goswami explains this: the act of reciting Srimad Bhagavatam removes the fault of lower birth. We read in the last verse that act of reciting Srimad Bhagavatam removes the faults of lower birth, and Krishna's holy name also has the same potency. So by chanting the holy names, Krishna holy names, and offenseless chanting, under the direction of the pure devotee, that is spiritual master, one can be elevated to the higher position. And then text 20. In text 20, Sut Goswami is glorifying Supreme Lord. That Lord is unlimited and full of inconceivable potencies. No one is equal to him. Simply by the will of the Lord, everything is done without physical or personal endeavor. Therefore, he is called Yogeshwara, or the Lord of all mystic powers. Even the goddess of fortune hankers for the service of the Lord, and she serves the Lord although he is unwilling to receive it. And then text 21. Text 21, Srila Prabhupada is describing how the Lord has unlimited expansions. Even and Sut Goswami saying that who can be worthy of the name of the Supreme Lord but the personality of Godhead Shri Krishna? Brahmaji collected the water emanating from the nails of the Supreme Lord's feet in order to award it to Lord Shiva as a worshipful welcome. So this Ganges water is purifying the whole universe, including Lord Shiva. In other words, even demigods are never equal or greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Lord has unlimited expansions. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Ji, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva are all expansions of the Lord, and all of them are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So there are 4 sects of worshipful devotees of the Lord, and the chief are: first is Brahma Sampradaya, which comes from Lord Brahma. And second is Rudra Sampradaya, which comes from Lord Shiva. And third is Shri Sampradaya, which comes from Lakshmi Ji. And fourth is Kumar Sampradaya, which comes from Sanat Kumara. So all the 4 original sampradayas are engaged in these. All the 4 sampradayas are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, and they will declare that Lord Krishna Mukunda is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and no other personality is equal to him or greater than him. Text 22. In this, Srila Prabhupada is highlighting like how one can attain the Paramhansa stage, which is the highest perfectional stage in Bhakti Yoga. Persons who are self-controlled can immediately give up sense enjoyment by engaging their senses in the transcendental service of the Lord. So we don't have to, artificially stop our senses, but instead we have to engage our senses in the transcendental service of the Lord, and then we can automatically become self-controlled. So this perfectional stage of engagement of the senses in the service of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga. So those who are attached by the means of Bhakti Yoga are self-controlled and can give their bodily attachment for the service of the Lord. This is called Paramahansa stage. Like for example, like Hansas or swans, they accept only milk from the mixture of milk and water. Similarly, devotees of the Lord also, they accept Lord service instead of Maya's service, and therefore they are called Paramhansas. Paramhansas, they are naturally and they are naturally endowed with all the good qualities like non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, respectability, worship, devotion, sincerity. All the good qualities will naturally come uh, into those devotees. And Paramhansas, they are always like, they have always complete faith in the mercy of the Lord without dependence on the conditions of the matter. Srila Prabhupada explained this line as real independence. Real independence means complete faith in the mercy of the Lord without dependence on the conditions of matter. This Paramhansa stage is the highest perfectional stage in Bhakti Yoga, the process of devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And then text 23. Text 23, Srila Prabhupada is describing the Supreme Absolute Truth is unlimited, and no living being can know him by his limited capacity. Srila Sut Goswami has taken the position of describing the pastimes of the Lord as far as he has realized. So this shows like Shukdev Goswami, Sut Goswami humility. Like he is saying like, I can describe only that much and how much I have realized. So but actually the Lord himself can describe himself, and his learned devotee can also describe him as far as the Lord gives him the power of description. Only by the mercy of the Lord, pure devotee can describe the pastimes of the Lord. And then text 24 and 25. In this, Srila Prabhupada is saying like how the how the merciful Supreme Lord creates an awkward position for the pure devotees. When Maharaj Parikshit, being the pure devotee of the Lord, he can never be disturbed by bodily demands. Like we see Maharaj Parikshit was feeling hunger, thirst, but Maharaj Parikshit, being the pure devotee, he can never be disturbed by the bodily demands, but by the desire of the Lord, by the will of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit became fatigued and thirsty just to create a situation favorable for his renunciation of worldly activities. So only devotees can understand this as the mercy of the Lord, but other people, they will take it to be unfavorable and frustrating. So like Arjuna was the medium for the revelation of Bhagavad Gita. Same way Maharaj Parikshit was to become the medium for the revelation of Srimad Bhagavatam. So if Maharaj Parikshit has not been fatigued, hungry and thirsty at this time, then how Srimad Bhagavatam would have been spoken by Srila Shukdev Goswami? So this all was the arrangement of by the desire and will of the Lord that this situation happened. And then in text 26, so when Maharaj Parikshit entered the hermitage of Shamik Rishi, and then Shamik Rishi was in that time, Shamik Rishi was in yogic trance, he was in meditation. And this in this purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions the three processes to attain the transcendental position. First is process of jnana, and second is process of yoga, and third is process of bhakti yoga, or the engagement of the senses in the devotional service of the Lord. And then text 27, the king being thirsty asked the sage for water. And that such a great devotee and king asked for water from a sage absorbed in trance was certainly providential. Otherwise, there was no chance of such a unique happening. Maharaj Parikshit was thus placed in an awkward position so that gradually Srimad Bhagavatam could be revealed. So in this also we can see, like again, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that Maharaj Parikshit was placed in the awkward position by the desire of the Lord so that Srimad Bhagavatam could be revealed. And next is text 28. In this, we can see how Maharaj Parikshit got angry and then felt neglected upon being not properly welcomed with a seat, water, and kind words. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that even an enemy, if an enemy also, like if enemy comes at home, he must be received with all respects. Prabhupada has given example of like when Jarasandh and also gave all the respect to the Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima when approached in Magda for fight. In the night, they all used to sit down together as friends and guests, and in the day, they used to fight, risking life and death. So that was the law of reception. So we should try to give the best of the reception to the even to the enemies. So and if a person is poor and then and he has nothing to offer to the guest, then he should at least offer straw mat for sitting, a glass of water for drinking, and some sweet words. So when Maharaj Parikshit didn't receive welcome, it was unnatural for the king to get angry because the king himself was not less than the great saint. So it must be accepted that it was the supreme will of the Lord. The merciful Lord sometimes creates such awkward positions for his pure devotees in order to drag them towards himself from the mire of the material existence. But outwardly the situations appear to be frustrating to the devotees. The devotees of the Lord are always under the protection of the Lord and in any condition, frustration, or success. The Lord is the supreme guide for the devotees. The pure devotees therefore accept all conditions of frustration as blessings from the Lord. So in this, we can see like devotees, they always accept the frustration as blessings of the Lord, and they accept like whatever is happening by the will of the Lord. So they are always grateful in all the circumstances. And then text 29. Then Maharaj Parikshit got angry and then envious at the Brahmana because this was circumstantial, because he was feeling hungry and thirsty. So in this Prabhupada is mentioning, as the Lord is never envious of anyone, so the Lord's devotee is also never envious of anyone. The only justification of Maharaj Parikshit behavior is that it was ordained by the Lord. So again and again we are reading like how Lord, it's only by the will and desire of the Lord this awkward situation happened. And then text 30. In this again, by the will of the Lord, the king, while going, found a dead snake in the front of him, and he picked that snake with his bow, and then he placed that snake on the shoulder of the sage, and then returned to his palace. In this, we can see that Parikshit Maharaj, being distressed by hunger and thirst, was only a show, because he was not disturbed. Like we can see, like when he was in the womb of his mother, so that time he was not disturbed by the heat of the Brahmastra, and second is like we can see he was not even disturbed by sleep, hunger, and thirst for 7 days while listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. When Shukdev Goswami was explaining Srimad Bhagavatam, that time Maharaj Parikshit was not feeling hungry and thirsty for 7 days. He was continuously hearing, and even in the womb of his mother also, like he was not disturbed. So we can see it was all the will of the Lord that this situation happened. Otherwise, Parikshit Maharaj was the pure devotee of the Lord. He is never disturbed by these circumstances. So one should not think that he had committed a sin because of bad habits. It was the desire of the Lord to appear in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So text 31. Maharaj Parikshit, then after returning to palace, started contemplating that whether the sage was really in the trance or was just pretending in order to avoid receiving the king. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in this purport that repentance comes only in the mind of the good soul when he commits wrong. So this is very important point here. Like we should always try to repent. Like if we commit anything wrong, we should try to repent. So this repentance comes only in the mind of good soul when he commits a wrong thing. So according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the plan was made by the will of the Lord and the frustration was created. So this whole thing happened by the will of the Lord, and then the frustration was created. The plan was that for his so-called misdeed, the king could be cursed by an inexperienced Brahmana boy infected by the influence of Kali, and thus the king would leave his home for good. His connections with the Shukdev Goswami brings about the revelation of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is considered as the book incarnation of the Lord. This book incarnation of the Lord gives information about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. So we can see how everything happened just to reveal the Srimad Bhagavatam, and this and this is Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as the book incarnation of the Lord, and it has all the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. And then next is text 32. Text 32. In this, when the son of the sage Shringi, he was playing with the other boys, and then he heard the news of king's offense to his father. And then he spoke some words. These words are mentioned in the next words. So Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that Shringi was a powerful Brahmana. So there were two reasons why he was a powerful Brahmana, because King Parikshit was ruling so nicely that the citizens were developing the Brahmanical qualities, and automatically they were like their consciousness was elevating. So because of the first is Parikshit Maharaj was ruling so nicely, and they all the citizens were developing Brahmanical qualities, and the second was the father of the Shringi. And he trained the Shringi so nicely in the Brahmanical culture that son became powerful. So it's very important, like how should we train our kids, and like this Shringi was trained by his father. And second is and due to the influence of Kali, Shringi became puffed up of Brahmanical power and hated the lower orders of the life. And then next is text 33. In this, Srila Prabhupada is highlighting that Shringi attained the Brahmanical power by birth and training, but he was lacking in culture because he was an inexperienced boy. By the influence of Kali, Shringi became puffed up with Brahmanical power and wrongly compared Maharaj Parikshit to the crows and watchdogs. Thus, the downfall of the Brahmanical power began as they gave importance to the birthright without culture. So this is very important here. Brahmanical power was it started, the downfall of the Brahmanical power started because when they started giving importance to the birthright but without any culture. So Shringi was lacking in culture because he was an inexperienced boy, and in the influence of Kali also happened, and then Shringi became puffed up with the Brahmanical power, and he compared wrongly Maharaj Parikshit to the crows and watchdogs. And then since this downfall of the Brahmana caste began in the age of Kali, and then and we know that Brahmanas are the heads of the social order. Brahmanas are considered as the heads of in the society. And then when Brahmanas started, their downfall started, and then automatically all the other orders like Kshatriyas, Shudras, and Vaishyas, all the other orders in the society, they also began to deteriorate. So this is the Brahmanical deterioration was highly deplored by the father of Shringi, as we will find in the next. Well, thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji, for wonderful explanation, especially the storyline with the lessons and right way to understand from the purports. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna,
Mataji, it
Mataji.
was so
Thank you.
beautiful. Yeah, yes, Mataji, it
Hare
was so
Krishna.
beautiful.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you so much.